Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. Today I have the author Van Brown with us today. He has a new book out, Love Symptoms, Diagnosing and Curing the Common Illness in Love and Relationships. And so I'm glad to have him on because what he doesn't know is that I've done two segments already. If you guys who have followed me, I've done two segments called marriages, one
Mm.
and two. So he's gonna give us some insight and break down some stuff on marriage, and hopefully we can have him back on with his wife to talk about marriage because you need that other partner. So
Yes.
welcome to Interruptions Podcast, Mr. Van Brown. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for having me. It's a privilege and an honor. I'm excited to see how this conversation is going to flow because they tell me that you are quite the skilled interviewer. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, Pam, I'm gonna get you for this one. You done put pressure on me. See, normally I can just flow, but then you start saying stuff like that.
No, just be yourself. You can't fail.
My first question for you is, what encouraged you uh, to get involved um, in helping people with relationships?
Great question. Because I grew up in the Bahamas, and my mother and father, even though they were married all their life until he passed away, they slept in separate bedrooms. I literally saw roommates as a relationship. And so once I started to date, I dated with the understanding of what I saw. I could
Okay.
protect, I could provide, but I didn't have the intimacy and the sensitivity factor because I didn't see my father exhibit that to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And now, after all these years of dating and broken hearts and broken relationships, I realized that there was something wrong that I was doing. So I stopped and I got wisdom. And I read every single book I could find on relationship, and I sought out mentors, and I realized that, oh, wow, I couldn't believe that there were so many things that I was doing wrong in this thing called love and relationship. Now that I saw how that information changed my life,
Mm-hmm.
it propelled me to want to help someone else. Therefore, the book and everything else just simply flowed out of what I thought was my Achilles heel. So I went from being horrible at relationships because of the examples that I saw to now people are calling me the love doctor because of the information that I'm giving to them. So it's amazing how when you empower yourself with information and understanding, it changes your life.
That's yeah, you're correct. Well, I'm glad that it, and then you seem to use it as knowing that your, as far as your purpose and your will
Right.
to try to help others, uh, and that's why I wanted to when I did one with Shirley Murdoch and her husband, and I did one with
Oh, wow.
Trisha Mann Grant and her husband Tony Grant. And where I was going with it, what I've been doing with it is taking people that are in the same type field industry, and of course these two different
Hmm.
couples are both in the entertainment, one music, one stage and acting and film, and how do they make it work, just so
Right.
the ordinary person could understand, to see that how we are with as men sometimes, is that if our career is going great, everything is great, right? But
Right.
sometimes you don't realize you got to sit on the sideline and cheer for your spouse. It's not
Yes.
all about you.
Yes.
And I've seen, and so God had been giving me something to put stuff out to also encourage people with marriages. And so once she told me about the book, I need you to send me a copy of the book and autograph it too. I need a
Of
copy
course.
and autograph.
Of
Um,
course.
Tell me about the book of Love Symptoms.
Yes, the reason why I call it love symptoms is
Mm-hmm.
because all over the world, people are being duped. We have come to the understanding through movies and songs that flowers, chocolates, fancy dinners, vacations, all of these are indication that the person loves you. But I could give those things and not love you at all, simply because I
Mm.
want something. And so what
Mm.
is happening? People are masquerading or mimicking love symptoms, but not actual love itself.
Mm.
So because they're giving the attention of staying up on the phone, they're giving signals, dates, fancy dinners, kind words, after they have gotten what they wanted, then all of a sudden you see this fleeting energy. And then we're wondering, what happened? What happened? It was because he never or she never loved you from the beginning. They just wanted something. And then you hear these sentiments, I thought he or she was the one. It's because people are mimicking symptoms, but they're not exhibiting the true nature of love, because love comes to give. It doesn't come to take. The true nature of love comes to give.
Yes.
But if I don't understand that, and because I was taught as a man that your body count is the only thing that matters, now I'm
Mm.
just relating to women for the body count. So I have no intention of loving, but I know how to be a player now. So I'm exhibiting the
Ah.
symptoms.
Mm.
I'm exhibiting the symptoms in order to get what I want. Once I get what I want, now we're leaving behind all of these broken hearts and vessels that will raise our children.
And that's dangerous, especially
Yeah,
today, especially
yeah,
today. The day broken
right.
hearted. I mean, it was never good. You know, my wife, we've been married 23 years.
Wow, God bless you.
And my wife said something to me. It took me a minute to understand it. She
Mm-hmm.
said, I'd rather you shoot me
Mm.
than to break my heart.
Mm.
And I didn't understand it at first.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were dating and we first got married, my heart got broken.
Right.
And then I said, this is what she means. Because
Mm-hmm.
that that feeling, and I've been fortunate enough that I've had mentors in my life. I remember, and it's funny you say that about the whole player thing, because
Mm-hmm.
I was never a player, but I remember this young lady wanted to buy me something. This was before I
Mm-hmm.
met my wife, and she wanted to buy me a suit. And you know how we are, we young. I was in my 20s. I was like, oh,
Right.
okay, cool. And my big brother, one of my mentors, said, because I don't biological have brothers, but he's my big brother. He knows who I'm. He knows his name,
Right.
and he told me, he said, don't let her buy you that. I was like, why does she want to buy me? You know, want to buy me a suit? Why she can't buy me? He said, no, 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 no. He said, if you don't plan on being with her,
Mm.
then do not allow her to buy that suit. He said,
There it is.
if you, which a lot of men don't understand this, if you don't plan, if you, whatever space you allow her to take up, she's gonna claim it.
Mm.
So if you say, okay, I'm just throwing this out, man, and tell me your thoughts on this. He said,
Mm.
so if you say, baby, Friday nights are, that's our day. You know, Fridays are our day, right?
Right.
You cannot disappoint on Friday being, because that's her space, that's her
No.
time. You giving her that. And if you give her that,
Right.
you can't take that back.
No, you can't. You
So
can't, because
mhm,
every single thing that you give is a sign of her value.
gotcha.
Meaning, Friday night is a pivotal time in anybody's life. It's the starting of the weekend. It's a
Hmm.
very time. This is
Hmm.
premium time right here.
Hmm.
And that's been given to her. And when you take that away, you're taking away her value.
Brother, 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 brother. That I've never heard that put that way, and that is, you got to help me today. You got to help. I got to get your
Yeah.
book so you can help me the more. No, because my wife love language is not the love language I like. It's because no. What I love about my wife is her simplicity. That
Yes.
that's why I love to buy her things that
Mhm.
like you'll always know I'm shopping for my wife because you'll see me in the store by myself.
Mm.
She can't be with me because she start worrying about price and all this other kind of stuff.
Right, right, right.
Because she's one that, use an example. Don't come in the house with a diamond bracelet, a diamond ring, anything like that if all the bills are not paid.
Mm.
If what's inside the house is not taken care of, don't you dare. Because if she
She's a
says,
smart woman.
yeah,
She's a smart woman.
oh yeah, listen, brother. This when I get my own talk show, let me tell you something. You would not see me switch wise. Hey, I'm smart enough to know if you was with me from
Yeah.
from here to here, we not trading. We don't do that kind of stuff.
She's a super wise woman because think about it. Normally, 100% of the time, if someone is saying, "This is what I want to do for you,"
Hmm.
how many people are going to say no? They're going to abandon their bills and everything else simply because I'm getting immediate self gratification. And she is saying, "No, brother, I'm thinking about the future."
Long term, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love her because if I have it and I can spend it,
yeah,
far as everything's been taken care of, right? She will
right,
enjoy it. But watch this. If I don't have it, or if she
right.
doesn't have it, right?
Hmm.
We don't trip. Like we don't say, "Oh, it was my birthday, you didn't get me anything," or it was
Hmm.
Father's Day. Like they blessed me on Father's Day, man. So let me tell you this little game I play before I get to my next question. Um,
Please.
so the game I play is, and I've been this way my whole life. So if you buy me something,
Hmm.
bless me with something, my wife, and I didn't get you anything, then my ego can't take that.
Mm.
So my ego says, okay, I'm gonna one up you. Now it may
Hmm.
not be today. It don't mean I'm about to run out to the store, but when I can do it. So Father's Day rolls around last week, Sunday, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just thinking, he's gonna say Happy Father's Day. Cause as long as I can count my kids, everybody alive, I have 5 grandkids, long as
Mm.
everybody's good, I'm good, right?
Right.
So my daughter Friday says, calls the house and said, "Hey Dad, we just pulled up. Mom said, come help us get the groceries out the car." I said, "Okay, all right." So I
Mm.
come downstairs, open up the garage. She had backed the truck in, and there it was, a pellet grill. A grill I've
Mm.
been talking about, getting the pellet grill. And the grill,
Wow.
and hold on, and that she knows me so well, right? She
Mhm.
she bought the flow model, like, cause she know I can't put nothing together. We ain't put the like, don't be getting that. Hey man, don't be buying nothing that we got to put together.
Right, 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 right.
So my ego says, well, hold on. All I did on Mother's Day,
Mother's
right,
Day.
was because both of my daughters are mothers now, and my wife. So I just bought each person what they wanted for dinner, and
Mm.
went and got it.
Mm.
But I was like, "Oh, look, the grill costs more than that what I spent." Oh man, so so then, man, I had to make sure I went up in the attic and did what she wanted me to do for the last week or so. So it's what I do is I believe in. I played a little game that I'll one up you when I can,
Right,
because what happens is for me, and give me your thoughts on this. For me, for our relationship, then nobody goes lacking. So
right.
I'll buy you what I know you like, but I know you're not gonna spend the money to get it.
Mm.
I will. So you can always pretty much know when I'm shopping for my wife, because either I'm by myself or me and my daughters are together. But trust me,
R-
if she's with me, if my wife is with me, trust me, we shopping for me. We're not
Right, right,
we're not shopping for her.
right, right, for sure. No, that's good because it's a healthy, it's natural. See, it means that you are naturally a giver because everything inside of you is saying, and it's not necessarily ego. Ego may be a part of it,
Hmm.
but you just show your gratitude for
Yes.
how amazing you are. So I thank you because there's so many occasions where it could have gone the other complete other way. And so for have someone in your life who understands you so well and is giving you the things you need on the time and the day that you need it, you can't do nothing but celebrate that and say, okay, I'm gonna get you. It's a very healthy, beautiful competition. And I love that you guys do that. Really
Oh,
good. Yeah, yeah.
what in the title of your book, the love symptom, what is
Mhm.
the common illness in love? Can you explain when you say the common illness, what is the
Yeah,
common illness?
the common illness in love is this. We think we're speaking for ourselves, but we don't realize that our trauma is speaking for us.
Mm.
Let me give you an example. I remember when I was 25 years old living in the Bahamas, and this was my first adult defining relationship, and we were about to get married and all this good stuff. And I
Hmm.
remember finding out that she had a whole nother boyfriend, a whole nother life, and she called me on the phone and saying, it is over, boom, 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 with no warning, just like just a drop of a hat, everything was over. And I
Right.
was so shocked by it. And I remember saying to myself, laying in that bed, I said, I will never let another woman hurt me this way. What I didn't realize, I
Hmm.
cursed myself in that moment because a
Hmm.
part of me died. I stopped being my natural self and I just gave 50%. I did enough just to get by. I
Okay.
gave you symptoms of love, but I never gave you love simply because the fear and the trauma was now ruling my life rather than me advocating for what I wanted. So all the relationships that succeeded her,
Hmm.
oh, you're a good guy, you're good this, but you never talk about the future. You never want to go any point further than this.
Hmm.
My trauma was speaking for me and not the authentic me. So when we get into relationships, we seem like we have it all together. Same individual, I could drive a car, I have driver's license, all this great thing. And we think we're doing, but once we start to get into the throes of the relationship, all of
Hmm.
these issues come up.
Okay.
And we're perceiving information not according to the way it's being given, but we're putting it through the tank of our trauma. I'll give you another example. My
Mm.
this ex-girlfriend I had, she's been cheated on so much. And so now here I am professing, saying I love, she couldn't believe a word. The reason why she couldn't believe a word because her trauma was preventing her from believing what I was saying, even though it was truthful. So we will always have this misconception, misinformation, misunderstanding if the true person is not speaking for themselves.
Man, that is so impactful what you just stated, because we've all have said that, if
Yeah.
been hurt by, oh, ain't they- especially people who've my uncle said something interesting, and it goes to what you said.
Mhm.
And uh, the first marriage, and I only been married one time, but
Mhm.
he said to me, your first marriage is never, I'm sorry, your second marriage is never like the first marriage. And I think it's
Mhm.
because of what you said. I'm not gonna trust like I did the first man. Like you said, like you
Yeah.
only you give about 50 or 75% because it's like you're waiting on
Yeah.
the other shoe to drop. And
Yeah.
yeah, because I've heard women in the past say, well, don't do that because men will do this or they would do. So like
Yeah.
you said, you're not giving because you haven't dealt with those issues. And so
No.
you're walking into a new relationship,
Right.
but you're bringing the trauma.
Yes. And they legitimately believe this is how they feel because they don't know any better. They've been living with this trauma for so long, they don't even realize that it has become their subconscious. So you hear it all the time. Oh, in in these settings where they have these forums, and particularly with women or men, oh, women ain't crap, or this ain't that, or
Mm-hmm.
you can't trust the beat. And all of these words are just echoing trauma, broken heart that was never healed. Because no sane individual who is whole by themselves will ever speak that way of another person,
Right.
generally. Why? There's no reason, because there's no evidence that all men ain't nothing. There's no evidence that all women ain't nothing. So anytime we generalize, it's a clear sign of trauma is governing your life.
Well, it's
But
funny you say that because I've always, let people know. I was like, I've already won.
mhm,
Once I found my wife, and we've had our ups and downs and good, bad, like any marriage, right?
right.
But I tell people, I say, I've won. I've won. And I think that's the hardest thing for men and women today when they're in a relationship or they're married, because you can be in a relationship and not be married. But
Yes,
they don't realize sometimes, hey, you've already won. You keep
yes.
looking for another, not
Mm,
realizing like, nah, this the one. Like a person told me years ago, she told me, she said, young lady at the time, she said, you will not marry who you think you're gonna marry.
mm,
Because I had this idea in my head
yes,
of who I was going to marry and what type of woman I need and all this.
right.
And I tell people this all the time. I think I'm the only man in the world. Could be another guy, but I ain't ran into him yet. But I think I'm the only man in the world married his mother and his father.
That's good. That's really good.
She
That's really.
have traits of my mother and my father,
Hmm.
both of them. And that
Wow,
that
that's really
that's
good.
yeah, yeah. To the point that her and my mother was so tight, right? That if something
Hmm.
was my fault or I was in an argument, disagree with my wife or something, I'm talking to my mom. My mom never took my side. And I used to I said, you can't, I'm
No.
your son. You can't rock with me one time. I don't even care. Hey, man, I don't even care if I'm wrong. Just ride with me one time. Just be on my side one time.
One time.
Never happened. Never happened.
That's good. That's good. But that's beautiful because we all know how sometimes, man, the dynamic between the wife and the in-laws, or the father, the husband and the in-laws could
Nah,
be
never.
a lot of times it is the poison that destroys the relationship. And
Hmm.
so I'm excited that you guys have such a beautiful relationship, and it's only going to add to the richness of you guys' relationship because now you have someone who will tell you the truth, even if it
Oh, she gonna
hurts.
tell you the truth. She gonna watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Trust me. Her and a friend of mine. They're the only ones that
Mm,
critique me on my podcast. Like they're not looking for the content.
mm.
They're looking at my positioning. Uh, uh, uh,
My wife does that too.
it's like you sitting there like, no, but did you understand what was going on? They're
Right.
not even talking about that. You're like, yeah, I got that. You can critique me later. I'm asking you, did
Mm.
you listen to what was going? So you feel my pain. All right, man. We here, man.
No, that's really good. That's what's gonna make you a multi-facet millionaire in all of this arena, because when you have that attention to detail, it's the little subtleties that matter. And so
Gotcha.
I'm excited that you have people in your corner, and that's the difference between. Remember, you know what is the number? I'm gonna probably get in trouble for this, but I'm
Mm,
gonna just blow it all the way up anyway. You know
mhm.
what is the number one movie that set us back in terms of relationships, especially in the Black culture? Waiting to exhale.
Oh wow. I didn't think you was gonna say that. I thought you was going so, but go ahead.
But let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because remember, there's a scene where they're all sitting down and they're licking their wounds when Angela Bassett's character is talking about how, and each one of them is saying, Manny and Crap doing this, and everyone is just allowing her to soak in the sorrow of what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's what's happening here. Women don't, what they fail to realize is this: women are incubators.
Right.
Women are true incubators. When you think about an incubator never keeps anything. It puts the baby into the incubator, it revitalizes the baby cells, and then it gives it back to the mother. So women have to be careful of their intake. What happens a lot is a lot of women just drown themselves in the sorrow of their demise. And each time they tell the story, it gets worse and worse and worse. So what they're doing is they're re-abusing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they tell the story of what he did, they're re-abusing themselves, and they think that this is therapy. Women believe because they talk a lot, they mean that they're getting it out. You could say a lot, but never get to the point that makes you heal.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go. Finish your thought.
No. And so because of Waiting to Exhale, where they all sat around in the room and kept nursing that pain, it's a good image. But I wish that there was more accountability in saying, it's going to be okay. How can we get through this? Even when she burned down the whole car with all everything,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the movie theater, everyone clapped and celebrated. All the women clapped and celebrated. And you have to say to yourself, why are they celebrating over something that could land this woman in jail? It's the sign that every single woman in that theater has been through that trauma, and the trauma is causing them to celebrate over a victory that they never had.
And that's funny you say that. One, just to that movie, because I remember watching that movie, and I was like, "Why you gonna burn the car? I drove the car solar, but I ain't gonna burn it.
Right.
That's money. That's money. We don't burn money." But I'm gonna tell you why. I was wondering where you was going with it, but I'm gonna tell you what you said is so true. And ladies who will watch this, hear me when I expound on what he just said.
Mm-hmm.
Men, we flip the script in our pain.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've been hurt by a woman, and
Mm-hmm.
you know how we do, Van, sometimes we'll play a song, we'll put a sad song on, and fellas, when we drinking. But eventually, if I'm with a group of guys, usually Van or someone is gonna say, Otis, bruh, come on,
Yeah.
bruh, you Otis, baby. Come on, you pulled her, you can pull her. I mean, she was fine. Don't get me wrong, she was fine. But trust me, there's somebody else that come. Matter of fact, come on, let's go now. You know, and so when you said that, far as reliving the trauma and it get worse and worse, I see what you're talking about, because I remember guys, we always try to get the guy out of that misery. You know, like if the woman is dogging him out, because men get dogged too, it's bruh, come on, man, don't let her keep. Come on, man. You know, it's we're trying to lift the guy up, whether we, stroking his ego to say, hey, man, you ain't got to take that. You such and such and such and such and such. It's not even if I said, well, Van, my girl, she cheated on me and whatever. I know what a guy is. You're not like, hey, let's go jump the guy, because you like, man, look, that's first of all, that's gonna land us in jail. I'm not going to jail for you. So you're gonna be like, look, if she got the audacity to cheat on you, then that means she ain't the one for you. Like, we give affirmations to pull the guy out of his misery, not keep him in it.
Right. And what women tend to do more often than men is to exacerbate the issue by dogging on the guy and creating this whole love fest centered around food and alcohol, and just, it's like a dogging out party. And I get it, you need to get your emotions out.
Sure.
But the thing about it is, women don't have the luxury to do that, because women don't hear words, they feel words. Imagine keep feeling that words over and over and over again. That's the reason why women tend to act emotionally more than men. We could compartmentalize it. Okay, man, I'm done. Now we may do it in a different way and self-sabotage another way where we become players, but we try to move away from that moment. But women, because of the incubator analogy, whatever you keep feeding into your tank starts to destroy you. Now, here it is, after you've said this to the 10th time to the 10th friend, now all of a sudden, everything you're experiencing is times 10, because each time you tell the stories, it's piling on and on, rather than saying, no, I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just move on. But we wallow in our self-pity.
Well, Dr. Miles Monroe said something very profound that allowed me to understand the situation. He said, women, like you said, he used the word incubator, and he said, a woman will double whatever you give her.
Yes.
You give her a house, she'll make a home. You give her groceries, she'll make a meal. Watch this. He said, you give her one word, she'll give you a sentence. But if you give her strife, she'll give you hell.
Yes.
Like, so he said, I can tell. Yeah, he said, I can tell the man what he's done based on what she gives back. So, because she's going to naturally multiply what you give her. You give her a seed, she give you a child. And so he said, if you are giving her strife, if whatever that you're giving her that's no good,
right,
when she give it back to you, it's gonna be 10 times worse.
Right.
What
that's
you
exactly what I'm saying. And that's, he was my spiritual father for over 10 years.
Oh, Dr. Miles,
yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's the reason why I'm saying sometimes women give themselves strife by the way they keep consuming the toxicity of what happened.
I got you.
You can't keep reliving it. As women, you don't have the luxury of keep reliving what's happening.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you find relationships, I'm sorry, do you find in relationships that people are just jumping to sex so fast, more than ever, and they don't know each other? So let me give some context of what I'm saying. So we have people, as you know, in this life that they have babies. And you didn't even know if the dude or the woman would make a good father or good mother, because you were too busy just trying to have fun. Now you've created this life, and now you're mad because she's not a good mother or good father, but you never took the time. Could you talk about what people need to do in relationships instead of trying to just jump to get in the bed?
Yeah, this is such, I truly believe this is the most important question of our time. Why? Because whatever these two individuals have, they're going to pour into the children that come out of them. So here it is, you got two individuals, don't know each other, don't know their mental capacity, don't know their drive, don't know what they want in life, don't know where they want to be, don't know if they have any addictions, they don't know any diseases, they don't know any of these things. We're so driven by the physical, and we're led by the physical. Now a child is being conceived. Because there was no time to make sure that we're compatible, we're equally yoked, according to where we're going, our spiritual life. Do I believe in God? Do I do not? All of these things. Now, all of a sudden, there's a child. Now you're trying to make sense out of it simply because a child, and you can't, because there's two different cultures clashing.
Mm.
Now the court systems now is having to be the mediator between two adults, and it breaks my heart to see children in the middle of it. And this is what's happening all over the world. We see men and women are being duped by this thing called euphoria. We call it love, but it was simply
Euphoria.
eros, erotic love.
Eros. Right.
They were
Eros.
never in love. They were in lust. And
Mm.
lust could never be satisfied. It's a bottomless pit. So now, after you've already had that one, she's pregnant. Now you're on to the next thing. And it's this unceremonious, it's such a devastating. And this is the reason why our men are hugging bars right now, because it wasn't an intentional thought to have you here. It was out of lust.
And it always takes me back
Mhm.
to the song "Keep Your Head Up" by Tupac.
Yes.
When he's talked about we have to be careful, or we'll have a group of kids. Like he said, we'll have a race of babies that will make the babies, but
Mm-hmm.
will hate the ladies. You know,
Mm.
like
He was too deep.
yeah. And it's like when you think about it, that's what's going on. You making the babies, but you hate the mother, but you didn't hate
Mm.
her. You didn't hate her for that time that you spent, but because, like you
Right.
said, you didn't get to know each other. And we're
Right.
moving faster and faster, like with songs like "My Girlfriend Got a Girlfriend." Like I pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, and I'm shaking my head because I have, like I said, 5 grandkids, and I'm shaking my head, and it's like it keeps me where I've got to be on point
Mm-hmm.
and on top of my game with my wife to even show my children and now my grandchildren what it really looks like. That to
Mm-hmm.
say, yeah, okay, Papa, that's what they call me. Papa, he might have been mad at Grandma. Grandma might have been mad at Papa, but you see, we still together. We still love
Of
each other.
course.
We sleep in the same. We sleep in the same bed. We,
Right.
it's amazing what's going on, and a lot of people are not paying attention or just refuse to look at it because I think we're living in a world where everybody is too busy want to have fun. Everybody's
Yeah.
having fun, and it's like, man, you don't see what's coming up behind you. As far
It's
as
a
the
trick
next
of the
generation.
enemy. It's a trick of the enemy. I have a friend right now in Atlanta. Let me tell you how serious this is.
Hmm.
When he first came over to the house,
Hmm.
Mr. When he first came over to the house to meet the young lady, and her father was there. The father told him, said, "Young man, I know my daughter. Don't mess with her. She doesn't want anything serious. She has issues, and she will destroy your life." Like, this is a father
Wow.
saying this to him. And you think he listened? He
Mm-mm.
was caught up in the silhouette. She had an hourglass shape and she
Hmm.
was beautiful. He still went there and got her pregnant. He has been in court for the past 5 to 6 years. This woman is abusing these kids, lying on him, slandering his name, got him fired from jobs. I mean, made his life a living hell. And had he listened, it was God speaking to him through the Father,
Yeah,
and
if
he
you're,
refused.
yeah, if the guy, if the woman you dating daddy tell you, man, you gotta leave her alone.
We don't know the horrors that we're inviting on ourselves when we just can't see past the physical. And this culture, because we're more in a driven visual society with Instagram, TikTok, everything
Hmm.
is visual, fast paced. And we are moving away from truth into fascination. What's the next best quick thing? And I mourn and weep for our young men and ladies because they don't realize how they're setting themselves up for such a disastrous life because you've made a quick decision based on emotions and over you being overly stimulated and aroused.
And it's amazing you say that, because my daughter started to see that, and I remember she said to me, she said, "Dad, you know what's wrong with our generation?" And I said,
Mm,
"Okay, this gonna be interesting," because it came out,
mm,
conversation came out of nowhere. I was picking her up
right.
from work, and she said, "My generation, we tend to think what's on social media is real."
Yes.
And I said, knowing is half the battle, though. Knowing is
Hmm.
always half. Now that you know, you got to do better. You can't just
Right.
know something. And a lot
Hmm.
of times we know something, we still fall back into those same traps and
Yeah.
same. And so I learned that the best way for me to be a better man, right, or better husband, right, is two things. One, I have to surround myself with men who do it better than me, right?
Yes.
Then I have to be accountable to someone else. So in other words,
Thank you.
not just accountable to my wife, but accountable to my children. And then if there's a young person who's thinking about getting married, and so now if I tell them something, then I got to exhibit what I'm telling it, so it helps me become a better man, a better person, and not a liar.
That's beautiful. That's exactly you, man. We are the same spirit because I truly believe accountability. There's this African saying where
Hmm.
just like how kids have uh, a godmother and a
Hmm.
godfather,
Hmm.
there's I think it's Uganda if I'm not mistaken, where they actually have a god where they have marriage mothers and fathers, and
Okay.
these couples, they actually are the people that they go to help sustain this relationship. So there are godmothers and
Yes.
godfathers that take
Yeah.
on, they help keep this marriage tight. And I think it's so beautiful because if there is no one that you respect enough, because if you two are fighting, obviously you're not going to respect each other's word in that moment. But there's always has to be someone that you mutually respect that can be the moral voice when there is no morality in the equation at that time. So I
That's
think it's so important. We need this more and more. And that's the reason why every chance I get, I try to speak on how to get back to the truth about love. That's why I say, stop talking about the symptom because the symptom is duping us. People are being catfish. Stop talking about the symptoms. It's about the truth about love. Because it's possible for me to give and not love someone, but it's impossible for me to love and not give.
let me ask you this. This is another good question I wanted to ask you about. Do you feel that men and women today fall for anything because within themselves they don't have a standard? So
Yes.
so I always tell my daughters, if you don't have a standard and the
Mm-hmm.
guy can't come up and meet the standard,
Right.
or vice versa, then you'll just
Right.
take whatever that the person dishes out
Right.
because you don't have a standard.
Right. And no, you're so right. And it's because we're so eager. This world that we're living in now, if you look at social media, it's all about people want the fantasy. They see the couple married, the beautiful wedding, and they see the fancy vacation, fancy dinners.
Mhm.
So we're stimulated by that. And
Mhm.
because we want that, we are willing to lower our standards in order to have the image, but not to have the
Mm.
truth of the image. And so what's happening, we have people pulling the gun too fast simply because we don't know the definition of a husband. We don't know the definition of a wife. We have people walking down the aisle and they don't even know what they're getting themselves into. Because a wife is supposed to be the finisher. She's a helper, meaning she helps to finish the vision that God has given the man. But here's the deal. If you meet a woman who have no interest in working, no interest in helping you fulfill the purposes and the burden that's on your heart that God gave you, then you married a liability rather than an asset. If you have a man who don't have a vision for his life and he just won an odd job and doesn't have no desire to give back to humanity, you've married a frustrated man. So the first question each person is supposed to ask, where are you going? Where are you going? And what is the standard in which you're going? What is your spiritual truth concerning the vision for your life? What do you subscribe to? What do you believe in? Where do you want to live? How do you, all of these things matter. Are you whole, complete? Do you have any addictions that will derail our future? All of these questions I list in my book because we don't have a standard on what this quintessential man or woman should look like. So I give you a healthy blueprint of the questions you should ask simply because women are being deceived by the fancy car, the 6'2", what perceived to be a good job, good social, skills. The man is being lured away by the silhouette and good conversation, but they never dig deep enough to see, is she a finisher?
It's funny you say that because I feel like, and like you said, that was your spiritual father, Dr. Miles Monroe, and that man was so that man was so brilliant. I watched, I think it's called Man Vision,
Mm-hmm.
and he said something that blew me away, but it put a whole perspective for me in my life when he said, "Man, you are not the head of your household." And I was trying to figure out, like, where he going with this?
Right.
And he said, you are the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but the thing about the foundation, nobody sees the foundation of a house.
Yep. You got
But
it, bro.
but if the foundation is not right, then the house can't stand.
The whole house
He said your
destroyed.
wife, your children, they are the cosmetic. You know,
Mm.
they're the windows, the
You
roof, the
got it.
thing that everybody see, but they're built on top of you. But if you're
Mm.
not right, none of that is going to matter. So
No matter.
then it put me in a different process, which I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you understand, which is now you just have to do for your family, be there
Yes.
for your family, be present
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for your family. But watch this. But don't look for the glory from your
No.
family, because that's
No.
not what you was made for.
No.
That is not what you're made for. So I think, like you said, that's what the frustration comes out, like you said, for a lot of men, is that they're looking for something. Because we used to say it all of the, I'm the head of this house, I'm the man of this
Yeah.
house, and
Yeah.
I'm this and I'm that. And not understanding, brother, you're supposed to be the foundation. You're
It's
frustrated because you're trying to be the
yeah.
windows, you're trying to be seen,
Yeah.
and that ain't what you was created for. But
Yeah.
then on the other side, what you were saying, which he talked about as well, which is what is he said a woman should always meet a man in two places,
Mm-hmm.
at work and in God's presence. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't meet him there, then you got robbed. You,
You're looking for trouble.
you're
And
looking.
that's it. We have moved away from truth. And
Gotcha.
we're entered into experimentation. So anything goes now. We can't even define what is a male or female anymore. All of these things.
But that's sad.
So,
Don't even get me
so
started on that.
yeah, yeah. So, everything now is being, and that's why we have to be so very skillful in the way we communicate the goodness and the truth of God and who He is and how it's supposed to play out in our lives, because it's so important right now, because our children are suffering big time simply because of ignorance. It's available, but they're not pursuing it. You know, it's available, but we're not pursuing it. And that's the reason why they need people like us to really, really go out to the four corners of the earth and tell the truth about this thing to save them from depression, sadness, and death.
Well, my next question for you is, um, tell me, well, tell the people that will see this, tell them how they can stay in love while raising a family. So, in other words, the
Mm,
context is this question. So, and I'm
yes.
sure you're running this. People are married, been married for years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Junior and your son and your daughter go off to college. They
Right.
grown, they grow up, and now
Hmm.
it's two people who
Right.
don't know each other. Because
Hmm.
now we're seeing people get divorced
Hmm.
after the kid. You know, you thinking, man, they've been married all these years, man, they're beautiful, the family, the kids. And now that the
Right.
kids are grown, now they saying we want a divorce
Right.
because they've kind of quote unquote fell out of love, so to speak.
Right. Yes. And this is the crazy thing. Again, it's misinformation. Because one of the things that we do, and particularly for couples starting off with kids,
Mm-hmm.
we make the mistake of making the kids the center of the focus. Remember, eventually these kids will leave our nest and cleave to their own husband or wives, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that means that we are permanent. So the kid comes and they're to an addition to the family, but they're not the focal point. The greatest thing I could ever do as a father
Mm-hmm.
is to love my wife. And that kid needs to see me loving my wife. The greatest thing that my son will ever need to know is, man, his daddy loved his mother. But when the child comes, the child now becomes the token. And we take our eyes off of each other and we put it on the child. The child becomes the obsession. Now, once the child leaves, that obsession leaves, and we don't know what we're doing, but we still could get back.
Mm-hmm.
The way we get back is this. We first have to understand this. Love is not a feeling. Love is a decision. So even though you have abandoned me emotionally for all those years,
Mm-hmm.
the God in me can still say, I'm deciding to love you, and I'm going to give you every single thing you need until you get to the better side of yourself. But that's a mature love. Very few people can love past their emotions. And the only way you can do that is with
Mm-hmm.
God. You have to understand, because if God loved us according
Right.
to feelings, none of us would be here.
Oh, but
So we have
we
to
been in
understand
bad shape.
love is a decision. Love is a decision. And I could love you past my emotions in order for the success of us to continue.
So that speaks to, I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you said that because the interesting thing that you said that I just caught, that I mean, that I really spoke to me, that I said, that's why we have Tony, Johnny, Mary, and whoever been
Mm.
married 5 times, 5, 6
Yeah,
times,
yeah,
because your emotions can change.
yes,
I love you for these 5 years. I don't love you no more.
right,
So now
right,
you're like, oh, I met somebody that, oh, love them.
yeah,
And
that's it.
right, because you're not making, so you're not making a conscious decision to say, hey, look, we're gonna work through whatever we gotta work through
Right.
to get it right, like you said, because we made the kids our, like me and my wife, what we've always did was it's us against the kids. Like like I'm the type, if I'm sleep van and one of my daughters are walking around, I'm like, what you doing?
Mm.
You know, and it's like, well, I was gonna get something to eat, or so. I said, hey, now yourself. I don't know. Don't be just walking in my room and you get hurt like that. You don't just, you know.
Right, right.
And they know I'm joking in a sort of, but I said I only wanted to be married one time, so I
Mm.
was going to make sure
That's
that I
good.
was fortunate enough that my mother liked my wife, and then later loved my wife.
Mm,
to the point that I remember one of my aunts one time said, "How come everybody can't be like Poncetta?" That's my wife's name.
mm.
And I was like, I don't know. I always tell people, don't get mad at me because I married my baby mama. It worked out for me. Hey, I don't. Hey, God did that. God did a work,
Right.
because even within myself when I first started, because like you said, with pain when I first met her, I had just quote unquote not too long ago was trying to get over a relationship of the person I thought I was going to marry. And
Mm,
the interesting part is that my wife, I lived in an apartment complex, and my wife knew my next door neighbor, knew
mm.
the Aunt and Rose Hightower, and she knew the woman that lived under me because at the time before I met my wife, she was married, and that was her husband's cousin. I mean, her husband's aunt. So keep in mind,
Mm.
I hadn't met my wife yet. Never saw
Wow.
her till that
Wow.
one day. Till that one day, she knocked on my next door neighbor's door to see them, and she caught my eye, and that's how I knew that
Wow.
this was because when I look back now, God says you're not gonna meet her until you're supposed to meet her. So
Mm.
since she would come by all the time, she told me she would come by all the time to see the lady under me because when I moved in an apartment, they told me that she was dying. And
Wow.
not to play any loud music or anything, like that. And but I had never saw my wife. I had never saw her until the day that I saw her. that,
Wow. That's
that yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I trust me. I always tell people, I said, you know, I done tried to leave about 300 times, but she told me man, these teeth I got, she paid for them. So if I leave, I gotta leave the teeth. Then she told me, she said, we've been married over 10 years. I can get half of your retirement. I was like, man, I didn't got tricked in this thing, man. I can't even go nowhere. I said, well, let me just sit down and watch some football then. But no, I love my wife. We in it to win it.
Right.
I got a friend of mine who's a pastor who's been married just as long as I have, and so I try to stay surrounded with
Right.
people, good people.
Of
Um,
course.
my last question for you: what motivates you to do what you do, to give back to people, to try to help them figure out relationships, their specific relationship that they're in, and to get it right?
Good. Really, really good question. Thank you for that. I truly believe that it's my purpose. It is my divine purpose. God sent me here to be an interruption to ignorance in relationships to Him, relationships to self, relationships to each other. Because all of my life, I saw God hand on me concerning relationship. He plucked me from some devastating relationships, just protecting me. And then all of a sudden, I found myself with these deep spiritual teachers and willing to take me underneath their wings. And I knew it was God just shaping me. Everyone has something that they have to give back to humanity. And I truly believe, and that's the reason why I could do this all day and never get tired, because I know this is the thing that God has sent me to do. And it breaks my heart when I see disconnect with families, whether it's brother, sister, mother, father, any relationship dynamic. And anytime you have that burden, it means that you are the solution in order to solve it. And I'm so just humble of the work that me and my wife are doing. I mean, relationships are being restored, people are coming back to Christ, and I'm just so excited. And it's all because that's the grace and the purpose that God has put in me from the very beginning.
Well, that we most definitely, man, want to have you back on, uh, do another installment of marriages and get into how you and your wife met, and then, the
Yes.
dynamics of your relationship, and just talk about marriage things, because and it's funny you played on words, interruption, because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what happens on interruptions. Interruptions get interrupted, and I always tell my guests the I just ask the questions, but the interview goes where you take it. Wherever you
Yeah.
take it, that's where we going. And
Yes.
I don't never have an agenda far as like I'm gonna set him up here or set her up here and then we'll get
Right.
right here. I don't do that because I think you lose being authentic, and you lose what the guests can give and bring because you're too busy having an agenda of your own. I
Mm.
told somebody earlier today, I've interviewed a couple of comedians and the interview turned serious. Like I
Hmm.
thought, comedian, you think we're gonna
Right.
laugh, we
Right.
gonna joke. It's like, nah. So, but they gave what they needed to give that
Yes.
people can understand and get from them. And then, it's just to see what you're doing. Um, you and your wife is something that needed, especially in this time that we're in now,
Hmm.
whether it's in the church or whether it's just people, period. People just getting divorced. Matter of fact, they going into it. Well, if it don't work out, you can get a
Right.
divorce. Like, man, you don't ever buy a car thinking that, well, if it don't work out, you can always get a car back. Like, nah, that,
No.
that ain't. So why do we, like you said, treat our relationships between man and woman being married like that? Like, if it doesn't
Mhm.
work out, well, hey, we can just dissolve the whole marriage. It's like you going into it with a
Yeah.
defeatist attitude. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, by you and your wife having those testimonies, being able to help God using you guys to help restore people is powerful, man. And more people. Before I let you go, where can they get your book?
You could go to Amazon.com, Love Symptom Van Brown is right there, or you can go to my website, vanbrown.com, and there's a link that takes you right to it. And on social media, Mr. Van Brown, Facebook, Mr. Van Brown, and the same with YouTube. So yeah, it's just we do private counseling, families, couples, individual, corporations, everything to do with relationship. God has called us to be the grace, to be the restorer. And so I'm so excited. Like yourself, I thank you for, and I applaud you for doing the great work of bringing on and imparting and encouraging and impacting lives, because we desperately need men like yourself. Not
Thank you.
only a living example, but you're also now spreading it out to the media, because media is everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you for coming on the show and blessing us with your presence. You're a treasure. Keep doing what you're doing. And just please stay blessed, and do me a favor, please stay safe out there.
Thank you so much for having me, and continue the great work you're doing, sir.
Peace.